Shalom Aleichem, everybody. Today's daf is Daf Ayin Beis. We start from Daf Ayin Aleph Amud Beis, toward the middle of the Amud. We're in the middle of a sugya, discussing whether Mashicha is kaina by a goy. Machlokas HaMeimar and Ravashi. HaMeimar says that a goy can be kaina by Mashicha, and Ravashi says that he cannot. Now the Gemara wants to ask a kasha on a Meimar. Mesave. We're up to Mesave, which is around 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20 lines from the top. Mesave. If somebody buys a bunch of pieces of silver from a guy and he finds, in between the piece of silver, he finds an Avodah Zarah agechkala. If he didn't give the money yet, he did a Mashicha, but didn't pay the money to the guy for the silver yachzer, then he could still return it. But if he was moshechit and he already paid the guy for it, then it becomes his. He can't have he can't even return it. No return policy on that one, because he would be having benefit from returning the Avodah Zarah once it says. The kasha on a is pashit. If you say Mashiach is kaina, so what's the difference? Maishna amay yachzer. Why should he be able to return it in the ratio when he didn't take money yet? Even if he didn't take money, but once he's moshechit from the guy, he's already kainet. Once he's kainet, he can't return it. It's hana. So Mamela should be yolich the Melech in both cases. Amar Abaye says, really Mashiach by a guy works. According to Meimar, it always works. But in the first case in the Braisa, where it says that he didn't pay money yet, Mishum de Mirzi Kimekachtos. The reason why I can return it is, even though he was Moishechit, is because it's a Mekachtos. Someone raised the words Mishum de Mirzi, because it looks like a Mekachtos. It's really a Mekachtos. Right? Never would have bought it had he known that there's Avodah Zarah there. Amarava, so the Gemara says, Amarava, Reisha Mekachtos, Sefer Lav Mekachtos. They're both Mekachtos. So why in the Reisha can he return it? In the Sefer he can't. It's both Mekachtos. It never belonged to the Yid. Elamarava, Reisha v'Sefer Mekachtos. The truth is that Taka both are Mekachtos, Reisha and the Sefer. Why in the Reisha can he return in the Sefer he can't? That's a different svara. Reisha lo yav zuzi. If the Yid didn't pay the guy yet, it doesn't look like the Yid is selling it to a guy, right? When he's giving the money back, and then the guy is giving the money back to the Yid is returning the Avodah Zarah. For somebody who doesn't know the background, doesn't know the backstory, for them it looks like the Yid is selling an Avodah Zarah to a guy. So that's why in the Sefer the Yavzim Yisrael, it looks like the Yid is selling the Avodah Zarah to the guy, and the guy is giving him money. Really, he's returning the money. He's returning the Avodah Zarah. People don't know the backstory will assume that the guy is buying the Avodah Zarah from the Yid, and the ratio where there's no money involved, then it doesn't look like the Yid is selling the Avodah Zarah to the guy. Now we're asking on Ravashi. Rashi says Mashiach is not koine by a guy. Says the Gemara, I have a rai, the Mashiach is koine by a guy. From the Mishnah earlier, if a person sells his wine to a guy, we said that a person who sells his wine to a guy, and he set the price, right? He already set the price. Then Dam of Mutarin is allowed to take the money from the guy for the wine. Why? Teretz is, if Mashiach is not koine yet, who cares if it's pasuk damim? L'chayra, Mashiach is not koine, so when the guy touches the wine, it still belongs to the Yisrael. So if it still belongs to the Yisrael, the yayin becomes aser b'shus Yisrael, and the Yid can't take the money anymore. Says the Gemara, the aktam le dinner. Here we're talking about a case where the guy gave the dinner to the Yid beforehand, and that's how he was kainet. If he didn't set the price and did the Mashiach, you can't take it. If the guy preceded the entire sale by giving him money, so why is Dam of Asurin? According to you, that you say Mashiach is kaina, you also have to answer, what's the difference? In both, he did a Mashiach. whenever there's a set price to begin with, then whatever kinyan there was, the goy is goymer das on that kinyan, and the sale is complete. But whenever there's no psikas dama, there's no set price, l'sam chadaite. So the dinami. Also, I'll make the same chiluk after of the kodem lay dinner, even though in the Reish and the Sefer there was a kodem lay dinner, there was money beforehand by the guy gave the yid money. Still, it's not going to work as a sale, even though moyes is kind of right now mashiach, but there was money there. Only if it's pasak. Pasak samchadaita, loy pasak lo samchadaita. If there was a set price, then the money helps to clinch the sale. If there's no set price, then the money doesn't help to clinch the sale because the guy doesn't really want to buy it until he knows how much he will be charged for it. I'll ask a kasha in Rav Ashi who says Mashiach is not koina by a goy. I'll ask another kasha in Rav Ashi. Rabbi Yochanan said, Rabbi Yochanan said, Ben Noyach nereg al pachas mishava pruta. A Ben Noyach is killed even on a pachas mishava pruta. If he steals pachas pruta from a yid, that pachas pruta has chashivas by the goy. It's considered mammon. And for dinan, a Ben Noyach is nerag ala dinan. He's nerag. It's one of the Sheva mitzvahs, right? Aleph beis gimel dalid. Dalid is dinan. Yeah, and the other one are the gimel chamuras. Right? Aleph is Eva Menachai. Beis is birchas Hashem. You're not allowed to curse Hashem. Gimel is it Gezel, and Dalet is Dinan, and then you have Gilerayis, Avodah Zarah, and Shvichas Damim. Okay, so either way, you're not allowed to steal. So the Gemara says, and the Gazlan can't return it. Why not? Because the Yisrael is Moichel. So it's not even the Yisrael anymore. There's no mitzvah sashava here. If you're going to tell me the Mashiach is not koina by a goy, my nerag, why is the Gazlan nerag? Yeah, he was never koina by kinyan gzela. Mishem destir l'Yisrael. So the Gemara says, Rav Ashi says, no, there, even though it wasn't koina it, but when the Yid checks his pocket, he sees he's missing it, he feels violated. Says Mitzarim, even though Takad is Moichelit, but in the moment when he finds out that somebody pickpocketed him, he feels violated as Mitzarim, and that's why it's Mechuyev Misa. So it's not a raya that Mashiach is koina. And what does it mean that Lenitan Leishavin? Yeah, if he's never kind of to begin with, what does it mean Lenitan Leishavin? It still belongs to the Yisrael, right? The Einoi Betoidas Ishavin, in other words, not Betoidas Ishavin because never kind of the Gzela. When a Tolam Mimenu Nehera Galeo Bishlam Ereisha Mishum L'Tar Yisrael. Yeah, if let's say Ivan stole it from Pedro and Pedro stole it from Yankel, so Pedro gets killed because it's Mitzar Yankel. But Ivan steals from Pedro, why does he get killed? Yeah, the Gemara says, the first guy is Mitzar Yid. Elosef and Mayovid. What did the last guy do by stealing it from the guy? You see that Mashiach is kind, and that's why the second guy, Ivan, who steals from Pedro, is also Nerag because he's Nerag Aladinan. He stole it from Ivan, and Ivan's Nerag because he stole it from the Yid. Shema Mino, the bottom line is, Halacha Psuka, that a Mashiach works, Mashiach is a kinyan by a guy. So the Heilige Gemura Vatra, who gavra the Amal Chavrei. There was a fellow who told his friend, if I sell this karka, lochem is abinallah. I'm going to sell it to you. Yeah? And they made a kinyan on that. They made a kinyan, they made up, not just Dvorim Ba'alma, but they made a kinyan that if he sells it, the kinyan, I guess, should be Chalam Afreya. So Gemara says, so this guy eventually sold it to a third person. Amr Rav Yosef Kanakama. Rav Yosef says, what do you mean? The first guy gets it because the kinyan preceded, that his kinyan preceded it. There was no set price. So when Mela, that kinyan didn't help because there's no Gemira's Das, so therefore the second guy gets it. How do we know that a kinyan without psikas damim, without a set price, doesn't work? It's not. So you see that psikas damim is an essential and fundamental criteria for kinyanim to work. You cannot have a kinyan pichal if the koina doesn't know how much the moicher will charge. My havi Allah. What is lamaisa the halacha in such a case? What is my havi Allah? I just brought you a right from the Mishnah that it doesn't work because there's no psikas damim. Could be the Mishnah is different because it's a chumra of yayin nesach. So mamela by chumra of yayin nesach, that's only when there was psik damim to begin with. But shar kinyanim, it could be it helps even without psikas damim. Toshama, so the Gemara, I can prove to you this shaila from a different place. The Amr Vida Berav and over the Hav Berav Chizda, the same story with Rav Chizda. Rav Chizda Berav Huna came to Rav Huna to ask the shaila. Pashtem Hod the Tanya, Rav Huna was poished from the following brayso. Moshe Chamor of a Poyelav. Yeah, if you have Uber Eats, a delivery man, right, bringing you whatever he brings you payers, he brings you food, right? If he's carrying it on his back, and he brings it into your house, but he never took it off his back, then bein pasuk actually mother, the bein mother actually pasuk. It doesn't matter if there was a psikas damim or not. Like kana, he's not kana. Why? Because mashicha doesn't work if the payers is on top of the chamar, or on top of the poil. It's not considered a ma'aser kinyan. But what if the Uber Eats guy put it down into your house? So now, it's already in the Rishus Lekeach. Then depends. If there was a psikas damim, right? The koiner knew what you're going to charge me for it, so that kinyan works. But if there was no psikas damim, then both can still be chayzer. So the Gemara proves from this brayso that even by shar kinyanim, it only works if the koina already made up a price with the meicher. There was a psikas damim beforehand. So the Gemara story. The person told his friend, if I sell this karka to anyone, I'm selling it to you for 100 zuz. Somebody upped him, right? Somebody poached it for 120. Amr of Kahana, Kona Kama. First guy was koina because he proceeded, his kinyan preceded the second guy. Maskef Rav Yaakov and Harpakoid. So Rav Yaakov and Harpakoid asked, Hai Zuze Ansuhu. The second guy who offered more money is considered like he was Ma'anis, the Meicher. The Meicher almost had no choice. He couldn't withstand that Nisayan of refusing the second guy who offered him more money. I guess he wasn't like Rav Safra, the famous Gemara of Rav Safra, of a Doiver Emes Bovavai. He was letting Kriya Shema, a guy offered to buy his merchandise, let's say for $100, and he kept going up. Rav Safra couldn't answer. He kept going up and up and up and up. And Rav Safra finished Kriya Shema, gave it to him for the original price. The Gemara says that's v'doiver emes b'vavai. But the truth is, Rav Yaakov and Arpakoid is teaching us that Me'ikar Adin, Rav Safra, what he did was Lefnimish Rus Adin. Me'ikar Adin, if somebody comes along and offers you more money, it's called Zuze Ansu, which means that if you sell it to the second guy, then the sale is a good sale because you're considered an oinus by taking it from the second guy's offering you more money. The first guy already made a kinyan with you. Yeah, but you said to the first guy, B'mei Zuzi, right? You said that I'm making a t'nai. If I sell it for this price, you'll be the first one to get it. But I had no idea that somebody's going to offer me more. And of course, had I known that somebody's going to offer me more, I never would have made. That's not included in the original t'nai. That the guy who offered him 120 instead of 100, he gets it. Amalei, if the Moicher says to the Lekeach, B'shas the kidney says, I'm selling it to you the Shayme B'tlasa, right? There's no psikas damim, there's no set price. He says, look, however three people will evaluate this property, whatever they say it's worth, that's what I'm going to sell it to you for. I feel even if 2 out of the 3 agree on a certain price, that's like a bezdin, right? Just like bezdin, you go basarayv, so you don't need all 3 to agree on the same price. The Gemara says, Tremigot is also enough. But what if the lashon of the Moicher says, like these 3 people will say, it's not just kedeshayim betlas like they evaluate it, but like they will say, then ad the amri betlasa, then they all have to say the same price. Kedeshayim barbo, ad the amri barbo, right? Then even by Arba, if he says evaluate it, all 4 have to agree on the same price. The chosh can hechad the amri the amri barbo. Amar like the shayim betlasa. If he says like 3 people will evaluate it, and all 3 evaluate it for 1 price. The says, Kech says, I don't want to pay this price. Let's bring another 3 people. Maybe they're more fluent. Maybe they're more bekiyim in how to evaluate. They'll evaluate it for cheaper. Avada lekech can be ma'akev on the moicher, and you can bring another 3 people. Maskef for Ravuna asks Ravuna, bereder of Yeshua, memai dahani kimlut fei, dom dahani kimlut fei. Who's going to be the judge? Which 3 are more bekiyim? So Avada, the lekech can be ma'akev hilches Ravuna bereder of Yeshua, and that's the halacha. So the Heilige Mishnah, the guy takes a funnel and he measures and he pours wine into the tzloiches of a goy. Then he takes the same funnel and he uses it for tzloiches shel Yisrael. If the mashpech has a lip around it on the bottom where little droplets of wine could get stuck there, then the tzloiches of the Yisrael is aser, right? Why? Because when the Yid used the funnel to pour wine into the tzloiches of the guy, then surely the mashpech got some of the yain nesach and the tzloiches of the guy stuck in its lip, and when you put it back in its Tzlichas Yisrael, it was nis'arev with the yayin heter, and it becomes aser. Okay, it's aser. Yeah, it's tarevis yayin nesach. Hama'ora mikli al kli. What if you pour from one keli to another? As she'ira mimenu mutter. The kli elyon that had the yayin heter is mutter. The she'ira latoichai, and whatever fell into the kli atachten, which had yayin nesach in it, aser, that's aser. So the Heilige Mishnah, nan hasam hanitzuk akatafres mashke tefeyach. By Tum Tahara, we're talking about chiburim. When it comes to liquid, nitzik is a stream, right? A stream of mashka that came from lamayla lamata. Vaktafres, and the mashka that was dripping on a slant from lamayla lamata, or mashka tefeyach, and you had mashka that was able to moisten whatever it touched. It's called. Ein a chibur, it's not a chibur. You can't consider the connection of a nitzik or a katafres or a mashka tefeyach to be matama to be matar. Who has bayron? But what if you have water that is gathered and it stands in one place? That's chibur l'tuma or l'tahara. That would be a chibur. Okay, this is a mishnah taharis. But either way, comes Rav Huna. Rav Huna says, Zamar Rav Huna, nitzik v'katafres mashka tefeyach chibur l'inyayin nesach. Even though with regard to Tum and Tahara, the Mishnah says it's not a chibur, but when you talk about yayin nesach, let's say a person pours from one keli into another, right? And the top keli, the one that he pours from, is yayin kosher, and the bottom keli has yayin nesach in it, and there's a stream connecting the two, then that would be a chibur, and everything becomes yayin nesach. And so too is the katafres and mashke tefeyach. How do you know this chiddush that by yayin nesach it's different? If you're going to tell me from that Mishnah Tahara's gufa, it says that nitzik katafres mashke tefeyach in chibur loy l'tumah v'loy tahara, l'tumah l'tahara do have a chibur. You're going to tell me that dik in that Mishnah is only l'tumah l'tahara. It's not a chibur. Yayin nesach have a chibur, but for yayin nesach it is a chibur. Eva seifa. What about the seifa of the Mishnah? You can be medak fakert. Who has boyer in chibur l'tumah l'tahara would have a chibur. Yayin nesach lo have a chibur, but yayin nesach it's not a chibur. So elamah lekel mashma. You can't go either way from the diukim in the Mishnah. Says the Gemara, we're going to search for a makar to Rav Huna's chiddush. Rav Huna says again that when the court comes to yayin nesach, nitzik katafres mashke tefeyach is considered a chibur. Says the Gemara Tanan, we learned in our Mishnah, not los hamashpech umoded l'tich tzlechis shleivet kechavim. Person takes a funnel and pours from the funnel through the funnel into the tzlechis of a goy, wine into the tzlechis of a goy. V'chazar modad l'tich tzlechis shel Yisrael. Then he uses the same funnel to pour wine into the tzlechis of Yisrael. And yesh boy akevas yain, if it has on the bottom of the mashpech of the funnel, it has a lip. Yeah, so there it could be ma'akav some wine. And now the wine that it's loiches of a yid is aser b'ano. Gemara says kevas yayin b'may kemitzra. But lamaisa, what aser that kevas yayin? Lav, don't you think? Benitzuk, because nitzuk is a chibur, and so mamela, whatever got stuck in the mashpech, that became aser through the chibur of nitzuk. Shmamina nitzuk chibur. That's a right Rav Huna that bayayin nesach nitzuk is a chibur. Says the Gemara Tana Reb Chia. Gemara says nishtazoi. That's not why the mashpech asers that's tzlechis shel Yisrael. You know why it asers it? Because when it was used for the goy, shepchasatu tzlechisai, the goy's tzlechis was overflowing, and the mashpech actually touched the yayin nesach. It's not because it touched it through a chibur of nitzuk. And mainly you don't have a raya that nitzuk is a chibur by yayin nesach. So the Gemara says, "Avoloi pchasatu tzlechisai." So be medaik faket for the b'chia. If they wouldn't touch it, my loy, it wouldn't be also tifsha the nitzik ain't a chibur. So prove the opposite. If nitzik is not a chibur, Gemara says loy. Nishtazai. Pchasatot lechisa tifshat lach the aser. Nitzik tibayi. In other words, the reason why it's aser in our Mishnah, when you use the mashpech that you used for a goy's tzlechus, now you put it into yitz tzlechus. Why is it aser? Because it touched the goy's tzlechus. It was overflowing with yayin nesach and it actually touched it. But you can't prove from there that had it not touched the yayin nesach of the tzlechus of the goy, that nitzik would not be a chibur, nitzik would be a boy. Tashamazu the Gemara, I have another raya that Rav Huna is correct in saying that nitzik is a chibur when it comes to yayin nesach, because the end of our Mishnah says, it says that when you have a kli elyon, right, top of a keli that has yayin kosher, and bottom has yayin nesach, and you're pouring into the tzleichas of the yayin, the kli of the yayin nesach. Halacha is that whatever you have left over in this keli is mutter. Whatever's in this keli is aser. So the Gemara says, once it says whatever's left over in the top keli it's mutter, mashma, that whatever's beini, whatever is in between, it's aser. Why would it be aser? Shmamana, nitzik chibur. Where it says, no, in nitzik chibur, I feel the gevei the man and amiletzis. So why is whatever's left over in here mutter? It should be aser also, because all of it was connected to the yayin nesach at the bottom. The way he poured it wasn't in one go. He poured a little bit and then he quickly picked it up. So there was never one chibur between the yayin and the kli kosher and the yayin nesach and the kli tachta and the kli of the goy. So only the beni becomes asa because that was connected. Gemara says, "Mikol mokem nitzik chibur," but still prove since beni is aser, so nitzik is a chibur. Otameich emaseif. The Gemara says, one second, if you're going to tell me beni is aser, atzadiak from the Mishnah because only masheirim memenu was mutter, right? But beni is aser, so be medak from the sefer the opposite. The opposite. It says shiur l'toichu the aser or the beni shari. Only whatever is left in the yayin nesach tzloichis is aser. Mashma the beni is mutter. So I bazay prove that nitzik is not a chibur. You can't have two opposite inferences from the Mishnah, so therefore we can't prove anything from it. Tashama, I have another brisa that can prove Rav Huna's halacha that by yayin nesach we say nitzik is a chibur. If somebody pours from a chavius to a bar, chavius yayin, into a bar of yayin nesach, kiluach hayoyred misfas chavius lamata also. Any stream that comes out from the sfas chavius or lamata, right, from the lip of the chavius that comes out of it is aser. So the Gemara says, why is it aser? Must be because nitzuk is a chibur, right? Because didn't even reach the bar yet. Whatever comes out from the sfas chavius, it's already aser. Must be nitzuk is a chibur. It's a right to Rav Huna. Of course, Tirgum Rav Sheshes ba'oikchav ma'ara da'asam mikoycha. Nah, that's not the reason. The reason is because the guy is the one who's pouring it into the bar, so it's koycha v'tkachavim, and by koycha, the halacha is it's yayin nesach. Even ma'ara, Gemara says if it's taka goy, I feel the gav the chavis and nami mitzvah. So whatever's in the chavis should also be aser. Gemara says no. Koyach david kachavim mit rabbanon the aser. It's only the rabbanon. When were the rabbanon goyzer and koyach david kachavim haudin afik labroi gazer be rabbanon? Only whatever already left the chavis, that's where the rabbanon were goyzer. Haud lagavoy, but whatever's inside still in the chavis, loy gazru be rabbanon. There the rabbanon weren't goyzer. Why not? It's not so nicker, and therefore the chacham weren't geyser. So the Heilige Gemara, Malur Rav Chizda Lanus of Yosam. Rav Chizda said to the wine merchants, when you measure wine to the goyim, right? When you pour the wine into the kalim of the goyim that mistam have yain nezach in it, katfe katufe, inami naptze naputze. Make sure that there's no steady, constant stream from your chavius that you're pouring from to the chavius you're pouring into. You're like the keli you're pouring into, because then nitzik will be a chibur. Seems like Ravuna. If that nitzik will be a chibur and it'll aser your whole wine. So what should you do? Katfe katufe. Just make sure that you interrupt. You interrupt the flow constantly, so there's no direct stream. Inami naptze naputze, or you throw the wine from a distance, and this way, again, there's no kiluach rotzev. There's no direct stream from your keli into their keli. Amalu Rav al-Hanish v'chai. Rava told over the following advice to the wine merchants, to the Jewish workers in the wineries: Ki shefchisu chamra. When you pour the wine into the goyim's kelim, don't let the goy help you out in pouring the wine from the chavius. Dilma mishtalisa v'shlisa le'alei. Maybe you'll remove your hand, and v'ka'asim mikoychoy v'aser, and it'll come from his koyach, and that would be aser. Zudi Gemara, who gavra the asik chamra begishta ubaz gishta, was a person who sucked up wine from one barrel to another through a mechanism called gishta baz gishta. He had two straws connected, and one was in the yayin kosher, and one was, they're all yain kosher, but one was in one chavis, the other was in another chavis, and I guess he sucked it. There's some physics over there, which I don't know. I've never tried it myself, but it seems to work, where you give it a suck, and then it sucks out the wine from the upper chavis, and it flows into the bottom chavis. So it seems to work. and the goy came, and he put his hand on the mouth of the straw. In other words, Imamish touched the wine that comes out of the flow of the gishta. He asked the entire wine, even whatever was in the top chavias, whatever was being sucked out of. Why is it aser benitzik? Shamana nitzik chibur. It must be that he held nitzik as a chibur. Rava holds nitzik as a chibur. So says no. Shani asem dekula chamer agishta bas gishta garer. That it's all considered one chavias. Once it flows out of the chavias in such a way, then we all consider one chavias. It's like the guy touched the chavias itself, the yain of the chavias itself, and therefore it's aser. So you can't prove that nitzik is a chibur from that. Amar Mazit Rav Nachman Knishkan and Shari. What's Knishkan? Knishkan is like a keli that has a bunch of straws coming out of it, and a bunch of people can drink at the same time. So if you have a goy and a yid drinking at the same time, it's mutter. Why? Because there's no backwash. They're both drinking, they're both sucking upward. But it's only if the Yisrael is mafsik before the goy. But if the goy is mafsik before the yid, loy, then it's aser. Aser for the yid to be mamshich, because as soon as he's mafsik lishtoy, so whatever was already in the straw, close to his mouth, touching his mouth, fell back into the knishkanin, and therefore it's aser. Rabbi Ravuna ikla berish galusa, sharlu lemishta b'kinishkanin. So Rabbi Ravuna came to the house of Rish Galusa, and he was matter them to drink wine with a guy at the same time from this keli called kinishkanin. Ikadamri Rabbi Ravuna gufei ishta b'kinishkanin. It could be that he himself also drank from kinishkanin with a guy. Tosis is bothered. What do you mean? How could Rabbi Ravuna drink with a guy from kinishkanin? We just said that if the guy stops first, then it's also for the yid to drink from it. So why wouldn't Rabbi Ravuna be chayshish that the guy might stop drinking first? So Tosis says Avadi wasn't drinking with a guy. This is talking about a different case. The Gemara in Shabbos talks about not drinking from kinishkanin bisman hazeh because it's too much of a display of festivity and simcha, people coming together and drinking wine from the same keli. So here the Gemara is referring to that halacha. The Rabbi Ravuna wasn't chayshish for that halacha bisman hazeh, and he drank from the kinishkanin with other yidden, but Avadi wasn't drinking with a guy. Okay, we'll stop over here.